What's going on? I'm gonna make a video tonight. Working as usual. Great lighting here in the car. So, I guess the focus, kind of the main reason I wanted to make the video tonight was, why I do this, why this channel exists, and to all the 13 people that subscribe, thank you. Hopefully it grows more. I've made about 35 videos or so, I think. Excuse me, and they all relate to this ethics presentation and my experiences as it relates to prison, going to prison, being an EMT, making some mistakes, having some horrible consequences attached to that, and going to prison. So I want to talk about why I do this and why the channel exists and why the presentation exists, and some things, some afterthoughts, I guess, to that. The presentation that I mentioned, there's a video, not very good quality because I have crappy cameras as of right now. Hopefully it'll change soon. I don't want people that do a job. I know why they do it. I know why people become an EMT or a paramedic or a police officer or a firefighter, or a nurse or a doctor, other jobs that are helping. That the main reason they do that is to help people. And as naive as it may seem, people do get into jobs that pay pretty crappily, and there's danger and risk involved in that. So they do it to help people, and other things may come from that later on, whether it's overtime or promotions or more skills, more licensures, those kinds of things. But in the end, I think the majority of people that are in emergency services or first responders, I think they do it because they want to help people, and that never goes away. And I think when that goes away, then maybe you need to step away and look at doing something else. That's my 2 cents, I guess, on that. But the reason that I have this channel up, and the reason that I talk and I make these videos, whether anyone sees them or no one sees them, or everyone sees them, hopefully that would be my goal. Anyone relevant that would need to see these videos sees them and takes their thoughts from it and does whatever. But the reason I do it is because I want to help the people that help people, I guess, if that makes any sense. There's a lot of things that stick out from that presentation, and one is a slide where it talks about the helping professions, nurses, etc., paramedics, firefighters, police, and ask the question of why did you get into emergency services? Why did you get into being a first responder? Why did you become a police officer, a paramedic, or a firefighter, EMT, whatever? And there's different answers to that. Generally, it honestly tells people to do cool stuff, to be someone that people can look to in an emergency, to be able to help their own family, even, to know those skills in case someone you care about or you're around, or even someone in the general public when you're off, has a problem. You can know how to deal with that if that presents itself or makes itself available. I remember watching a TV show several years ago when I was a kid. I was less than 10 years old. The show was on CBS, and it was called Rescue 911. William Shatner hosted this show. It was basically, they had 3 stories of different police, fire, EMS calls, and they would try to have, typically, more often than not, they would have the actual people that made the call reenact the scenario. William Shatner was the narrator and the host, and it was kind of cheesy, I guess, by today's standards, but I saw it every time that it came on. I love the show, and that's what really started my interest, I think, in wanting to be in something like that. Younger, I was, there's a picture of me when I was a kid, on top of a tank near Fort Knox here. So I was about 3 years old, 4 years old, something like that. So I think every kid wants to be a soldier, every kid wants to be an astronaut, a doctor, a construction worker, whatever it may be. You have different things you go through, but I think it really kind of got to the point where I knew what I wanted. I wanted to help people. And seeing that show kind of solidified that to some degree. I got older, and my grandma was a nurse for 30 some odd years in nursing homes, a few, but one for a prolonged period of time, about 20 years, almost the full time that she was a nurse. And I remember going to work with her late at night seeing what she did and the hours she put in and the things she did for her patients, and that stuck with me. The level of responsibility and professionalism that she had in that environment. It's not, nursing homes are not the great. They're a thing that exists, but there's a lot of a lot of issues and hangups with them. Won't get into all that, but got older and I became a lifeguard in high school. And I remember the first time I got CPR and first aid certified was when I was 13 in middle school still. So became a lifeguard in high school, never worked anywhere, but just went through a class. It was a high school class, and I became a lifeguard. That was pretty neat to me to be able to go through that and to have that training. And about the time I got into search and rescue through an organization called Civil Air Patrol. And that is where I met the person that actually told me about the ambulance service that I would end up eventually working for sometime later on, was in Civil Air Patrol. And things progressed from there. The point is, I think throughout my life I've had a pretty steady history of having an interest in helping people. And while I hold no one else responsible for what I did and what happened in the events directly, there's some people that I feel that contributed to the situation. Now, they didn't contribute to me stealing supplies. They didn't contribute to me doing what I did, but they contributed to the situation being a situation, I guess. And I'm not hostile. I'm not mad at them. It's just something that I acknowledge, that they did what they did and I did what I did. So, but at any rate, there are people every day in this country that put on a uniform and they get their equipment and they go out in the streets and they do their job, whether that's a firefighter, a paramedic, an EMT, or a police officer, or anybody else involved in emergency services. And I guess more than anything, the presentation, the story, the events, the repercussions, the consequences, the things that happen from all that, I'd like to think it's a cautionary tale, and that's maybe a literary type phrase to use for it, but that's the best thing I can think of, is just, don't do what I did and don't be like me. And that's said with all of the, self-deprecating way that I can mean that, is don't do what I did. If you find yourself in this position, know that it can get to this conclusion. If you know someone that's in this position or is having issues similar to what I talk about, please intervene, stop it, talk to that person, try to get them help, try to help the situation if you can, bring it to someone's attention, bring it to their attention, the individual, because it's not going to help anything if they continue on this path that they may be on. I was very fortunate and able to present the presentation in person to a police department recently, and I was very surprised. This was actually Friday night, so a couple days ago. Today's Sunday morning as I speak here, but about half the room was police officers. So police officers, and there was a sheriff's deputy there as well, and then the rest was firefighters from this fire department. So I'm not nervous around police. I don't hate police. I don't dislike the police, but it's something that that's never been an audience before, and it got me thinking and talking to the person that actually facilitated the presentation itself at the agency. It was his agency that actually invited me, and then it was the fire department there in that area that actually held it. So there is applications to police with this presentation and this issue, these issues that are presented, I guess. I can't count the times when I was younger in the last 20 years or so that I would see police in different towns, and I'm sure everyone's seen it, where they turn their lights on to get through a light, a traffic light, red light, and they're coming through there. They're not on an emergency call. They're just turning the lights on to get through a light, and it's not right. It's illegal. If they hit someone and hurt them or kill them. Hopefully not, but if that does, and that does happen. But if it does happen, then they're going to be put in the same kind of position as I was in, as far as civil liability, their agency being sued, them being possibly arrested and charged and convicted. The same applies to firefighters. I mean, firefighters kind of go more with EMS than they do with the police as far as types of runs or calls they make. But the majority of firefighting runs across the country, at 85% for the last 20 some odd years, have been EMS related ambulance type runs. So a lot of people, they call for an ambulance or for a medical complaint, they get a fire engine to show up and get confused. And that's why, because a lot of agencies are moving to have their firefighters, and have been for several years, to have their firefighters as basic EMTs, and they carry equipment and supplies on their apparatus, on their engine, to be able to give that first response, whether it's Narcan, an AED, oxygen, epinephrine, those kinds of things, because those seconds count. But I would hope that other agencies would see the value, and it's something that opened my eyes to other places that could see some benefit from hearing what I have to say, and from hearing what's presented, what have you. It's kind of a strange situation, a strange feeling that I had being there, and I kind of made some jokes to kind of break the ice, but there was some nervousness there. So when you're in a room full of police officers, and you've had the background that I've had, to be saying what you're saying and admitting in front of police officers that you committed crimes, granted that sentence is over and all of that, but still it's a little different than what I've dealt with. The other thing is, how are people generally going to receive it and respond to it? And generally I can say that, at least in the in-person presentations that I've made, I can't say what everyone's going to say on a video when they watch either this video or something else, but in person, it's generally been good feedback, and I'm thankful for that. There's probably going to be some people that are going to say, "You're so stupid. How could you have done this?" And yes, I'm fully aware, as much as I can be, how dumb I was to what I was doing and what the results were. All I can say is that it wasn't something that I intended to do, and that goes a lot toward it. That means a lot in the situation. It doesn't change anything, but it does go toward the state of mind that I had at the time. The things that I've went through and seen and dealt with and put other people through and knew that they endured and suffered because of my actions, that's never going to go away. Doesn't matter what happens. Doesn't matter how much time goes on. That's never going to totally dissipate and go away. The best thing I can do is try to help other people that help other people. And that's what I feel like the best use that I can do with the situation and with what's left of what's here. So that's about all I have for tonight. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. Feel free to share, subscribe, and if you have any questions, get back to me and I'll certainly respond back. Thanks.